Hello, today we're going to do a quick session about user setup and permissions. User setup and permissions are all set up in our backend settings area for those people that have access to it. Permissions and all of those items are going to be found in our first section of hotel and staff. The first portion to talk about is permissions. In permissions, we're going to roll out and show the different user groups that we have predefined. There is not currently the ability to add any other user groups or permissions, but right now these are predefined for your use. If within there, we have a group of items that are assigned permissions as well as items that are not assigned. Anything that you want a particular user group to have is going to go through, and we want to make sure that we can say, well, if I find something and says we want to drag from not assigned to the assigned, and it's going to save that and utilize that for future times. Anything that is here is what they can use. Things that are not here are things that people cannot access. One thing to be cognizant of is that items that are tagged as settings are all the things that allow people to get into this back end side. So those are the ones that you want to be a little bit more careful about and going from there. So there's the ways that we do that. And as things get dragged and dropped over into the group, they are assigned to that group and it will go from there. Once somebody logs out and logs back in, those updates will be impacted for them. Users are set up in the actual user setup. We'll always go through and show you our existing users. You can always come in and search for a particular user in there, but as well, we can add a new user. To add a new user, we're going to click the Add button, and in here, we're going to put in a user's first name and last name. Department will pull down from the list of the departments that you've already created. Job title we can put in. It's tagged as a mandatory, but it is not a mandatory item. Email address, though, is going to be a mandatory item. And I'm just going to use a test one that I have. Once you go ahead and you've put in the email twice to verify that accuracy, we do need to assign an initial password. And this does need to match. And then the last thing we're going to do is assign the person a role. And so once we assign them the role, we're going to go from there. We can set the default dashboard, but it will automatically go in there, and you could save the changes. And that person is now going to get an email inviting them to activate their account. If we search for them, we will see that they have been created and are all set, but they have not had a lost login and are not active. It's not going to show up until they have accessed and clicked on the link to activate their password. One other thing to look at and know in users is that while the ability to assign people multiple roles is available, I will strongly suggest to have only one user role assigned for them. It is the best way to go from there. There doesn't create any conflicts. Sometimes I've seen a few places where you can get a conflict, so please assign a user only one role, and one role to know that you don't ever want to assign to anybody. Zest Station is only used for our Zest stations, and those are the kiosk options, so do not ever assign that to an individual user. They'll get a really funky message and when they sign in and won't be able to use it. The other thing to know is that if for some reason you've hit the save button and it does not go back to your list of users, it means that there's something that's wrong in here. So if I do it as an example, I come through here and my passwords don't match. When I hit save, it's not saving it. If I scroll back up to it, it's going to tell me what's going on and why it's not saving. And as I mentioned, the person will get an invitation to log into their user account, and they can use this to activate their account. It's going to properly take me to my setting up of a new user and setting up my password. And now, as a reminder, passwords need to be at least 8 characters and have numbers and letters in them. And we've gone ahead and now logged in and set up Philip as a user.